Welcome. This is Tabasco, the sophisticated biker, and you are at the Motorcycle Clubhouse. Yeah, it's wee early in the morning. Otherwise, they'd still be partying around here. They're getting a little quiet back there behind me. I think I'll start this out with a little bit of house cleaning or information. About a year ago, we started the sophisticatedbiker.com. Actually, it's just sophisticatedbiker.com, and it is a social media community platform for motorcycle owners and racing fans and enthusiasts and everything motorcycle. So, like anything, it takes a minute. And so, of course, starting out with about 20 friends on our social media likes, people I've known, I'm sure, from back home. And we've grown substantially. I don't know where, I actually don't know. We're probably like at maybe like 70,000, maybe on all the platforms. I really didn't spend any time on some of these platforms like TikTok and uh, Instagram because, honestly, I didn't mess with them much prior to starting the brand because, excuse me, voice is going, because I didn't have a need. And so as I started developing the brand, then I saw the value in different platforms. To me, it was always odd. TikTok and Instagram was always really odd because they were just video, platforms, and I really didn't do videos back then. And really, we just started really pushing out just to get the user base to show analytics so that we can get some market value for advertising. I'll tell you, it was a lot slower than I thought, especially since it was a free platform. And so I've twisted this thing around a dozen times, trying to make people understand that you can use it as a social media platform. You can create groups. How we can do forums. I mean, I was just really wanting to share or create a social media community for motorcyclists so that we could share information, about events, yes, travel, yes, but also knowledge. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Knowledge is what we're losing in a lot of cases, and I mean, it's getting lunch later than it seems. The Evos are becoming, or techs are becoming less and less. They're not teaching a lot of that stuff in school. And of course, we got shovels and on back. And I know Trigger, who contributed for a while on the magazine, he just, I mean, a motorcycle Harley genius and the Indian. He's, up there in age. I won't give it away, but we changed the platform around some. I was using a digital flip book, which was really cool, but it was kind of hard to optimize on mobile devices. So, it made it difficult for people to read it. I was using a large enough font so that you could read it without having to zoom it or stuff like that. But it just, it's cumbersome. So, really following the lead of magazines all over the world, I just decided to go back to that, magazine format where you basically have the articles on web pages, and the web pages are sections of the magazine. I did flip them over to a blog style article because then we would get search engine optimization and all that jazz. So it's out there. It's still free. I even embedded Chat GPT. Actually, the second day it was available. So, it really interests me. AI interested me from the beginning, and actually, when I had the original thought for this magazine, I thought, well, I want an interactive product. I want a product that, like, if you're in the travel section and you're looking at motorcycle travel articles, that you could engage a bot that AI bot that you could then ask an intelligent bot. And really, the first version, I think it was like 3.0 for ChatGPT, it didn't have internet access. It has a pretty good knowledge base, but it couldn't give you current events, couldn't give you the current weather, somewhere, whatever, current prices on hotels or flights and all that. Well, when they really just made leaps and bounds, I mean, I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but I had heard rumors that the modules themselves were writing their own code faster than engineers could. So basically it was learning from itself and rewriting its code so we could get smarter. Now you do understand that any version released to the public is about, oh, I don't know, preschool or kindergarten, you know, and they probably had it for 20 years. Um, the government likes to, allegedly likes to keep secrets and stuff, and hold technology to themselves like forever. So I can't even imagine. The current version of ChatGPT and a lot of the AI bots, they're not a neural network. They don't learn. They have a memory retention, and you can put in knowledge documents. So I thought it'd be really cool if, again, if you guide the reader in each section, if you're thinking about events or you're looking at travel, you should be able to interact with that chat and say, oh, that's cool. How can I get tickets or whatever? And you know what? I mean, I don't know. It was used. It's gotten so much smarter now. But I did pull back a little bit because it isn't free, and basically we've never charged a subscription for our magazine, and I feel like there should always be a somewhat free version. I had professionals telling me from the beginning they thought the concept was a really good idea. They said, wow, we've never seen anything like this. We've never seen an interactive product like a magazine where the reader can dictate the conversation. And that's what we did. I think we're probably one of the first that's ever done it. Unfortunately, we're not, Time magazine, so it's not like everybody, in the world saw it. But and we're a shoestring budget, man. This was self-funded from the beginning. I had originally written in a nationally syndicated travel and event motorcycle magazine for about, I don't know, 10 years, 10 or 12 years, a monthly article. It was called the Tabasco Report, and then it was called The Final Word when Tabasco decided they were going to sue me in Georgia for copyright infringement. But it's not the name. It was the logo created by the editor of the magazine that had, similar looked sort of like, red pepper, hot pepper, or whatever. So we basically, I mean, I went ahead and just changed the heading, or the name of the column because it's not worth it. I mean, again, I did it for basically in exchange for, originally I did it in exchange for advertising for our bar. We had a bar up in where I'm from, and it was a biker bar, and I actually had it in partnership with five club brothers, and one of them, I think, won a raffle ticket, like on a bike event for a free advertisement. And that's how we met the magazine owner or the publisher. And we just continued to carry it on. He knew what we were about and just asked if I would contribute articles. And that turned into about a 12-year stint. I long since got rid of the bar, but we became friends, and I just kept on writing. And it was very well received up north. It was written through northern Ohio, and the Great Lakes region. So it was picked up by, other states with the same syndicated magazine, and it really went well. And I used that article as just a teaching platform. I never one time ever in all those years and all those articles that I mentioned another club name. I would just discuss the general, or in generality, things that were like, this is what I think a prospect should do, or this is what I think this, or this is what I think that. And it was, about probably 300 word, 2-page articles. Sometimes they got longer depending on what was going on. And, I know my stuff. I mean, I've been around the motorcycle or club life since birth. I mean, I was literally born into a club. My first membership cards, framed behind me on the wall, and it was the day I was born. So my father was president of a MC that grew. It was in just a couple major big cities, but like a lot of them, a lot of those guys dispersed, went to other clubs, and so we kind of kept that lifestyle up. I kind of grew up different than most, but I didn't pick it up for myself until I had my kids, not completely raised, but I started young, put it that way. And I had an obligation there, and I could have just been, you know, one of them dads, but I wanted to be the dad. And hell, in the end, after two marriages and three kids, I ended up custody of all three of the kids, and then they put them through college. So my lovely wife came along when they were, I don't know, they were like 7, 10, and 16, or no, 7, 10, and yeah, probably 16. But she didn't move in for like a year, and until my daughter went to college. But anyway, so, having been around the life and those people, the uncles that I called, were names like Beard and Gut and Strut and Rudy and Fire Clown. Uh, those were all the uncles that I had from the time I was young all the way up through. Yeah, not quite, but close. Heading into high school. And again, I've just been around it. If I grew up. In fact, there was an article I did where I have a picture of a gentleman named Indian. He's a 50 plus year. Well, I say retired because the club kind of aged out. You'll see that often when, especially, but they met. Hell, Dad's club I think closed in. I think he left in, I don't know, early 70s, um, and it probably made it to, I don't know, mid to late 70s, and it kind of just whatever. Guys went to other clubs, but pretty unique that the club that he rode with. I guess I can say it because they're no longer in existence. So they were called the Road Saints, and there's a lot of people in up north that know them, and one of the members, he may have been founding, probably was, because he had 50 plus years, was his name's Indian, and I had posted an article about him, and he was like basically, in the hospital where when I was born or after, and I have a picture of him and I in Daytona, probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and I just turned 55 now, so I was, whatever. That's a long time. So, you know, I know my stuff. And at the time I was writing the article, you gotta forgive me because it's like 6 a.m. and I need coffee. But the time I was writing the article, I was actually going through it. I was probating for my first major club, which was a big international club, and I happened to be probating at the World Mother chapter of that club. And so I probated there, and you know, sometimes, especially when you're a mother chapter of an organization, and there were chapters all over other Germany and other places, and but yet it was still growing in the United States and everywhere else. So I got to be a part of that. I was about probably it had been in existence, I think, 4 years when I joined or started probating, and so it continued to grow, and it's huge today as well. And I was a part of that growth, and it was good thing, you know. But as I was writing those articles, I was literally living it, from that perspective of starting out and working your way up. But again, never using anybody's name, never using our club name, trying to, most, pretty much all of them. I never even lent a hint to who I rode with, because that's just the way I was brought up, and there's really nobody's business. It doesn't need to be public. But I had gotten word from the editor that there were clubs, big clubs. We're talking top, ones you would recognize that in that region as some of the longest and oldest standing clubs in the world. Um, Really enjoyed the article, and that some clubs were literally reading the article to at their monthly meeting, church, whatever, because they thought it just spoke the truth, and there wasn't really anything like that back then. And we're talking about probably, yeah, probably oh 07, oh 08, somewhere in there. When I started writing, maybe. So that was fun. So the original idea for creating this brand, I kind of stopped when I hung the patch up about 2 years ago. Um, and and probably just before I got really busy. I was in a high position with the club, and I had a lot going on. In fact, I kind of, not only being a boss of a state, a big state, um, and growing that state for the first time in 22 years, really, outside of the original footprint. I was also a national officer, we created a ton of friendships with some major clubs, and I'm in Florida. I think most people know that, but I had no idea the number of clubs. Big clubs that represent down here in Florida. I don't know, because I'm from Ohio, and guess what? All I did was go to Florida on vacation maybe once a year to Fort Lauderdale. I thought that was Florida. Turns out it's a whole lot hotter than that in July than coming down in February. But anyway, so I also set off to make friends because the club I had transitioned to wasn't the biggest. In history, but they were one of the baddest in history. I mean, going back well before me, I don't take any credit for that. This club was so sort of nefarious, I guess, that even some of the very big clubs in those regions were just like, you know what, it's not worth it to mess with. I got something beeping at me here. It's like don't involve them. It's just not worth it because they will come out and what the hell is beeping over here? They will come out and wreak some havoc. And you know what? That's the way it was back then, man. That's the way it was in the late '60s when the club I left started, and a lot of the clubs started. Back in them days, it was different. I don't know that it was easier because we all look back and say, "Oh, they didn't have this. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have this." Well, you know what? It's never easy in the time that you're coming up. No matter what anybody says, it might seem easier in hindsight, but it should be easier now because we have such an credible source of technology at our fingertips and communication, all those things. Of course, so do the feds and so do the LE. So touche. But there's just as many devices to prevent yourself from being tracked or scanned or listened to as there are to do it. So that's a money making scheme there, buddy. And we're gonna make the device that you can hear somebody from 1,000 yards away, but we're also gonna make the device that blocks that. So I mean, some people are smarter than me. Remember Ronco? Some of you old guys. How all we had was like album cleaners and like I don't know rhinestone stud jeans things, man. That was technology back in our day. But it's as much later than it seems. We're sure gonna go fast. But anyway, so the concept I really decided to do as I had seen podcasting, and I really hadn't ever done it. Again, I don't think I ever even made a video or shared a video prior to like a year ago. But I saw the uniqueness to it, and I thought, well, you know what? Now that I've made the friendships that I have with other leaders of very big motorcycle clubs, that it would be a unique perspective because I didn't know any magazine, first of all, that had a clubhouse section that would talk clubhouse. And again, we don't talk about other clubs, and that's just something I'll touch on here in a minute, and probably end up doing a whole broadcast on. But by meeting the people I met and things change sometimes quickly, sometimes not, in clubs, and some of those leaders were tremendous leaders in very big organizations. And of course, I always hung out with people long or older than me. I've always done that. I did it intentionally, actually, especially in the club because I've learned a tremendous amount very quickly. And I intentionally moved when I was traveling around Florida. We didn't have a plan. I worked remote in IT, so it really didn't matter. My wife could travel. She works for a hospital system. So, or any hospital. So we did that. We went to Tampa because I had a contract. Once it cleared up, we went to West Palm and stayed. And then after about, I guess a total of about 2.5 years, total of a fifth wheel, it gets old. It might seem like the dream when you're sitting in, uh, some snowy, northern or midwestern city. But man, I just wish I could just travel on it, But I tell you what, when you do it, I don't know anybody does it super long. I mean, it does get a little tight. Plus the fact that I work from home. So I was, never left the damn, tin can. We still have it, and I just not really. It's like camping, like every day, and anybody that camps knows it's work. On top of it to keep those things in good shape, and everything's not easy in those. So anyway, you know, then when I chose to settle because when I had moved, I was a part of an international club, and I didn't really personally know the club brothers from down in Florida, but I knew I had family there, right? So I knew I had friends because I didn't know anybody in Florida. It was just a plan for like I don't know every winter for 20 years to go to Florida when the youngest graduated and left the house, and that's exactly what we did. But it was very nice to have already built family. So I landed, and I had to get the bike shipped. It was a little behind me, probably maybe even 3 weeks or so. And the wife actually had to have her shipped because she was still up in Ohio because we were trying to sell the house and the contents, and she did all that and came down a couple of months after I got down here. But I remember that ride over to the first church and meeting everybody, and I really didn't know. There was only one brother I think he saved my life once, and I didn't even know it was him at the time. But when we were up on a national, but it was nice. It was awesome, and that's exactly why I transitioned when I did, because I knew that I wanted to, a family wherever I went, and so that worked out very well for a long time. And then, it just really kind of it's amazing because when I hung the patch up, when I got down here, I think there was probably I don't know. I'm gonna say not more than probably I don't know 25 total in two different chapters in two different cities in the same county. But I'm the new guy, right? So, and we had in the time that I was in down here, which was like I don't remember exactly how many years, probably 7, 6, I don't know. Um, there were some other guys that had transferred down because that's what people do. But I moved over to where I'm at because the three oldest members of the state and two of the oldest members in our entire nation, and actually the longest wearing patch and first um, special patch, I'll say, um, was here. And I met him, and I spent I refer to him as Mr. Black, and he was phenomenal. We had a great 3, 4 years. I mean, we just hit it off like we were family, him and I. And he's literally the longest wearing member or patch in the nation of about 8 states. And I learned so much from him. And then he got cancer, and he died. I mean, he died in like 3 weeks. I mean, didn't even know he had it. He was only like 64, maybe. That was a bitch, and it was a shocker. But by hanging out with him, there were two others that were in this area that they all retired, um, but also had like the second or third longest patch wearing member, and then the other one was pretty damn long too, 30 plus. So imagine, I was probably, I don't even know, but I was greener than they were. I mean, I had years in the club life, but again, I had made a transition to this club. There's an absorption of our old club into this one, and not all of it, but a good piece of it. And it was probably because of me. And I tried to tell everybody. I said, you don't. I know the club that I was planning to roll to. I have known them since I was a kid. Again, the biker MC community. Dad had a couple cousins that were in this club that I was going to roll to. And it's even a different world than the one we were in. And so, but in the end, we had about 22 guys that rolled over, and we created two new chapters for that nation, and some of those guys are still there. So like I said, it worked out. I thoroughly enjoyed the time, the most fun time down here. But when I left, I just kind of didn't realize really until at that time, not probably that week before, that of all the members that were already here, and again, like I said, there was a established chapter of 22 years down here. Everyone had left except for three. One guy don't, he makes every excuse not to show up. I like him, but he's a knucklehead. The other two were our brothers, and one's been since then. He's left the club. The other one's still over there, and but it was amazing. I'm like, in that fast amount of time, I come down to a fully staffed set, and then I opened three more clubhouses in the state in various areas, and we grew it again. I think we grew it. We were up towards like 50 some at that point, and it's just amazing that I turn back and look around, and I'm like, where the hell did everybody go? And again, a lot of guys aged out. They retired, and unfortunately, a few passed. Two of the three over here passed away, and we had we had a string of bad luck there for a minute. I'm telling you. Generally, in our case, in every case I've been in with a club, you open a chapter or you have a chapter and there's X number of men. I'm not going to throw that out there because every club's different, but I try not to get it too big. You get too big, and then everything takes twice as long. Every meeting, every church takes 3 hours because everybody's got something to say, and you need to listen to everybody. because even the quietest guy in the room might have the best idea. So, but you know, as I turn around, and look, I'm like, how did that happen? And it's not that I literally put the patch on every one of those guys that came in. They came in. Anybody who and probably that prior 5 years. Anyone new that wasn't here when I got here, except for a couple of transfers from up north. Um, I recruited, rolled some clubs, and put the patch on their back. So it's not like that. They weren't my brothers because they were, but they weren't the history of the club. It was just weird to turn around and see that. But so once I made the decision to leave or to retire, hang the patch, whatever you want to call it, um, you know, that wasn't something I did lightly, and there were reasons, and I won't go into that because I'm not gonna sling mud or blood uh, today. But it wasn't something I took lightly. I mean that role has occupied a good portion, well, my entire life in actuality, and personality comes from it, but in a position or in the patch, or probably after my second year, first, probably by the second year, again, things can change fast. I ended up being I think I was the VP, and then I was the president of, and really we didn't call it a national at the time in the first club, but it's what it was because I reported up to the number one of of the nation, and of another club that was we were a sister club, and also a regional guy, so we just communicated. They didn't run our club. They weren't in charge of our club, but we communicated with them because we are a deep alliance. We were a deep alliance, and but I mean, it's just my life. So leaving the position of volunteering and building and see that's a big difference with me, and you'll have it with good leaders. And I'm not tout my own horn here. Look, I've got also 30 plus years in management, and really I started in the field. I was a telephone man. I mean, it used to be telephone man, believe it or not. I know most of you kiddies don't realize that. It used to be a thing called tip and ring, but back in the day, we had, actual just landlines at home, and they weren't off your cable box because we didn't have cable. But so I grew up in my career as well, and I went from foreman to field foreman to supervisor to operations manager, up and all the way up, and ended up being executive level, building some very big divisions, multi-state divisions for companies, um, and running them. So I had the experience, but you know, to leave that, so I saw it as I wasn't the position. I'm fulfilling the position. Far too many in this day. I mean, way too many. I don't know why it's been allowed to happen. Yeah, you respect the leader. You respect the people in those positions. So if you don't respect that person, then you better respect the position because you may have that position someday, and you're going to need the respect and backing of your uh, brothers. And it's really a hard transition between. There's some static on there. It's a very difficult transition to transition from a brother, equal brother, because in the end, you're all equal. You all wear the patch. Yeah, there are people in leadership, and maybe they're better at leadership, or they're good at it. I'm good at growing things. That's what I do, building, and I built this state. I added to the state I came from, and I just what I do. I build things, and then I knock them down. No, I'm just kidding. But so but not everyone's built like that. I mean, that's the problem even in corporate America is that let's just say, you have a scientific lab, and this guy's got a, whatever, PhD, this guy's got a master's. Well, they take the smartest guy or the best scientist who knows the most, and they make him the boss. But the guy doesn't have an ounce of leadership ability or management ability because he didn't go to school to be a business manager or operations manager. He went to school to be a scientist. And far too often people fail, businesses fail because they have the wrong guy in the wrong job. Just because you're the best, you know, block layer doesn't mean you're the best foreman. So, and it's the same thing with the club. So, you know, the position. and again, I don't know. A lot of clubs are different. We ran ours on Robert's rules and elections annual, or no, I think it was like semi-annual, um, for certain positions. But here's the thing: it's not your club. It's not your position. You are not the president. You are fulfilling the role as the president because as fast as you climb, if you have any time on the set in life, your time is limited. And unfortunately, and again, far too often, the change comes from reason. I mean, the only way I can say it is an overthrow of the next group of bullies that come in to try to run things to take and fill their pockets or their egos, and it just made me sick, man. And to me, and that's not all clubs. I mean, I've got some really good friends in some super high positions of very big clubs, and but even the ones that I talk to and still do, even when I left, and I can say again, thankfully and graciously, that I was offered some astounding respect, still am, because I earned it every single time you meet somebody or you see somebody, you re-earn their respect, and pretty soon you have a pretty good reputation of being respectful, and they in turn give you that respect. But you know, the reasons why I would give not to go to another club, and again, offered very good, positions. And not that I'm better than anybody else. It's just the experience. I have a lot of years, and then just a lot of pre-education prior to that. So I mean, but the reasons I didn't go or I don't see in it anymore what I did are valid, and they can't argue with it, and they don't. They're like, well, yeah, they agree. I'm like, look, man, if I was you and I had, 10, 15, 20 in the club and things didn't happen the way they did with the issues with the one I was, and I finally just said I've had enough, I wouldn't probably leave, you know what I mean, if I were them, but I don't want to start over. I mean, it's too, I mean, I've had too many years, and I mean, and you can probate at any age. I mean, depending on what club you're in. I remember in that first club, our sister club had a 50-year-old um, prospect or probate, whatever you want to call him, and that was a big deal. Well, I'm 55. I can guarantee you, I could probate for whatever the time is, and it wouldn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. It never did because you know why? And I have a lot of friends that are bikers that, well, oh, I could never join a club. I couldn't be somebody's bitch. I can't be a probate. I'm like, good. I didn't ask you to, and they're still friends. They're bikers. If you're a biker, you see it all the time. Ride, live free, ride, whatever. You're not free in a club because you have obligations. You have expectations. So you're not free. And that's the truth. And everybody knows it who's in a club. And, it's okay. It's okay. Well, that's all is a club member, a clubber is not a biker. I mean, we're all bikers, but and I hate the lone wolf thing. Like, really? I mean, do you have to announce it? I mean, it's kind of silly, my opinion. But when you're a part of a club, you're a part of something bigger than yourself. I am not too arrogant or big to take out the trash. As the top guy in the region or the state, and there was a party going on, at one of the clubhouses, could have been whatever, and you see me carrying trash to the dumpster, which bothered some of the guys that were, my officers. Like, what are you doing taking the trash out, man? You're like, the whatever. You're the whatever. You're the top guy. It's because it's full. Because where I grew up, the trash didn't take itself out. So I was taught if there's shit on the floor and you're walking through the kitchen, eh, clean it up. It ain't gonna clean itself up. And I mean, hell, my kids had to learn the hard way. I mean, by God, they had every fork, spoon, and dish and cup in their damn rooms upstairs all through school, and didn't do. I mean, I made them do their laundry and shit, and stuff like that because I was again single dad at first, and you know what? I figure when they move out, which they did, and get their own places, college, whatever, they'll figure it out. I won't have to tell them to take out the trash, and they'll let it sit there for a week. I don't care, but start smelling it really bad. Then I guess they'll take the trash outside. They'll learn, and it worked. So same thing for me. I'm crossing, party, and I've done it. And guys like, man, don't, that makes us, look bad. I said, if you think it makes us look bad, that the number one guy is taking out a trash bag that's full. then you're not in the club for the right reason. Yeah, could I holler, probate, come get this trash? Sure. I can be King Kong. I rather lead by example. And I always have. I always have. Even probably, and that is a hard thing to cut back from, like when you're in position and people have it out for you. It is also difficult to hold back when you're told to, because they want to cut the head off the snake. If you have the most experience and you're in the leadership and you're the teacher of your crews, then it makes sense that somebody who has a case of ass at you or an enemy would want to cut the head off the snake. And, but I showed up on almost every single mission. A couple I was told to stand down because I was, doing something else. I was still part, but, I also, you know, was the first one off my bike on other missions and right up to where we needed to be ahead of my bodyguard and ahead of my warriors, let's say. And they're like, "Get the hell, but what the hell's wrong with you? Like, go up there first, take the." I don't know, because that's what we've always done. That's what I've always done. The way I came up through the ranks, and I'm just not used to it. I get it. They're right. It comes with the job. You have to accept that you can't be the first guy out there. That you have to help your club. You need to not be there or not be up front. That's how you help your club now, because you have to pass the wisdom that was given to you on to the next generation, or we lose it. And that, I feel like, is our obligation to our elderly leaders. That, like Mr. Black, I mean, good Lord, man, he had 49 years in that club in the patch. Second one only to, I think, the founder. And imagine the amount of wisdom I got from that man 3 years, and we talked at least once or every day, or sometimes twice a day, for 3 or 4 years. So you see things. You don't do dumb stuff like go to another club party, with a pack of, I don't know, 50, and they've got people out there. They're gonna park you. They've got their prospects or whoever, and that's who's gonna do their parking lot duty. I did it myself. When I came in the first club and stood out there in the rain, park bikes. But you're pulling into a place, and there's a field to park in, and it kind of looked like a, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was like a little league field or something, but it didn't have dugouts and stuff. Maybe it was a neighborhood one type thing. So you got the backstop chain link, you got the sides where a bench maybe where the kids would sit, not super fancy, and then an opening, about 6 foot, and it goes out where the team would go out past the chain link fence, past the you know home plate or whatever. Well, you don't pull 50 bikes in there, especially when the whole thing's chain link fenced in. Because what happens? What happens? And no one saw it. I mean, I didn't lead the pack in. I let the chapter boss lead the pack in because we left from his chapter. Could I be right up front there with my chin up in the air, my chest puffed? You sure as hell could. But I didn't. Because you know what? I learned that from Mr. Black. We went to a sidebar. We went to a big event, and first one to greet us was the tactical team from the sheriff's department. As we're walking into this large, it was an outdoor event, but it was, an entrance. And, first one comes up, this big, tall sheriff, and comes right to the head of the group. And he's like, all right, who's in charge here? And who ended up being, who was my security at first and bodyguard at that time. I wasn't in the position I was in, and Mr. Blackwater, obviously, he's the leader of the club within the club. He is the most experienced and has the most years. And I watched a one of those crew, our crew, in his club in the club, step in front of him with not even 10 years in, and so that's me. What can I do? How can I help you? It wasn't about, and Mr. Black just kept on walking with us, and they a few of our guys stayed back. You don't want to stop with 30 or 50 guys when there's like two or three. Ellie, they get real nervous. So the rest of us just kept pacing, and we dropped. We have a way to do things, and we dropped guys there as we kept walking. But I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It ain't about arrogance; it's about intelligence, and you gotta learn that. So we go pulling into that party, and I'm watching. You're coming in stacked two by two, but then you're gonna, uh, you know, generally you're gonna turn on the street. You're gonna start stacking up to park. And I watched this chapter boss, who ought to know better, and because He was in that club longer than I was, but some people just don't learn. And he starts pulling in. There are prospects who roll us into this field that's surrounded by chain link fence. And look, we're at a very big clubs, very well known party with another big, very well known club, one percenters, and there's always static. I mean, amongst clubs. I mean, and I don't even know that all is static because I mind my business, not your business. We would tell people our stance was this, and some people don't respect it. From some chapters or even some areas of clubs is that we are the fence. I am not on your side of the fence, and I am not on your side of the fence. I am always on my side. So we aren't on either side of the fence. We are the fence, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that clubs will bicker. One of the clubs that I built a very good bond with that we didn't have in the nation, um, I mean, a tremendous bond with. If you were to read the internet, the 1%.com, you would see that they are listed as our mortal enemy. And at one time, they probably were, well before my time in the club. But that stuff doesn't get updated like Wikipedia, so you never know. So I don't know who's got beefs with who, and you want to be able to a protect your crew. B, get the hell out of there if you have to. And the last thing you want to do is put 50 bikes behind a chain link fence with a 6 foot opening that anyone could block off with a bike, if not even a car. I mean, be aware of your surroundings. But that just comes with knowledge, years of being taught by very smart men. So the first club that I was in, I answered the number one of the, I'd say he's the U.S. boss. He may not have been the world boss. I'm gonna tell you that's a lot of people. So and the time I spent with him, I also valued, and in fact, his. So in my region that I dealt with, he later became the national boss and world boss, and I spent probably a lot of time, more time probably dealing with him than the national, but I absorbed it all and I pay attention. Keep your mouth shut, your eyes open. But then you can afford to teach people because that's your job. My job was to pass along the wisdom I was given by these guys because one was on life in prison, one passed away of cancer, one's still at it. Those of the three I was mentioning. But it still was my job to pass that wisdom. I got it because I was there and I did it. And it takes a lot of years, but again, something might click, like don't put your bikes in a chain link parking lot with a 6 foot opening, because you're stuck like Chuck. If anything happens, could be LE, could be a attack from a club. It's not smart. So again, that may be the stuff I could write about and talk about. Some things I avoid because they might. Well, I don't know. Maybe I know that the general public doesn't may know who I'm talking about, but they do. And I don't even like that situation. And I'm just astounded at, I'm blown away by the podcasting and platforms I've seen on the internet because, I don't sit and watch them all. I'm very, 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 very busy between that brand, the sophisticated biker, and I work 100 hours a week for 7 days a week for over a year, and literally, and I had help. I have help because if you haven't seen the platform, you should go look. It's free. And you know, my help on that with contributing with articles and our former leaders of and or current leaders of major clubs. I mean, we're talking big ones. Again, I don't name drop because it's because it's private to that club, and if you're from the life of the life, there's a code, and to me, and I think 80% of the people in Patch State don't even know what it is. But you have protocols, you have this, you have that, but they don't know the code, or at least they don't live by it. And that is that you don't talk about other clubs. Period. The only club names come out of your mouth is your own, and that's it in public. Private, do what you want behind closed doors. But sometimes you have to discuss that. But we don't want our guys gossiping about other clubs. We don't want guys sharing news stories when some club gets jammed up. We're not assisting the media and degrading the integrity of any other club because we don't want them to do it to us. Because everyone gets a bruise. You're only as smart as, like I said before, you're only as smart as your dumbest member, and there ain't no IQ test to be in an MC. So you don't want to spread the bad news. It just brings down negativity on all clubs, and it's not worth it, man. It's not a gossip fest. It's a damn lifestyle. It's a motorcycle club. It's a brotherhood. And I you hear that too. You see that a lot on the internet. Motorcycle clubs aren't street gangs. We're a club. Um, okay. I think even on some of these platforms, I can't say what I want to say. I don't know what club you was in, but I was in a gang. And it is what it's called. What it is now. You don't advertise that. You don't say that when you're in because there are double the penalties if they can tag gang specs on you. And again, I'm not saying that everybody's a good boy in MCs, and they're not, but everybody ain't a good boy everywhere. Cops, churches, religions, teachers, you know. So, but they tend to put label everybody in MC, in any MC, as nefarious, but yet you'll watch how fast the cops turn on each other when like that one where the guy had died with putting the knee on the neck. And I don't watch television, haven't for a long time, so forgive me, I don't know the names, but you know when he's saying, stop resisting, as they're beating the living shit out of you and kneeing you and elbowing you. I mean, if that's not so obvious that that's been told to them in the academy or wherever, what you want to do is say stop resisting as you're tasing this guy who's already handcuffed and not resisting. Oh, stop moving as you're tasing him and making him move. I mean, we see that. Hey, Ellie, if anybody wants to let them know, we see that. We're not stupid, you morons. But you don't want to. You know, you don't want to give them any more than they're going to make up anyway. So you don't want to say, "Hey, we're in a gang." I had two brothers that were given a patch by a very well-known leader of a very well-known club, and that's cool. I mean, they were jazzed about it, and it said gang shit on it, and I have one too. It's right up here on the wall. It wasn't on my vest. They put theirs on their vest, and we were allowed certain number of personal patches, and I just told them, I said, as the leader of in the state, and really for a lot of states because of being a national member or board member as well, I think that's a good idea. I know they were proud of it, so they weren't even thinking it through. I'm like, you sure you want to wear that? And they're like, well, yeah, I can wear it. I put it on my, I said, no, I didn't say you weren't allowed. I said, you sure you want to? And like, well, why wouldn't I? Well, because when some cop trumps up some bullshit on you and they throw about 13 felonies on you because that's what they do, they're just going to throw everything at you and see what sticks. Um, they're going to double that when they throw gang specs on if you're with another brother who's wearing the same patch, and they're going to throw it on both of you. And I've seen it every time. I saw it right in our club. They should know it happened right here in Florida. Um, fist fights turned into felonies in this day and age. It used to be you got the good old honky tonks, fisticuffs. Nobody got shot, nobody got stabbed, and we've had situations like that. And but by God, if nobody presses charges, the cops are going to. They're going to, prosecutors going to. There's no victim here. But we had. Oh, by the way, because there's two of you, we're going to throw gang specs on, which like doubles the felony penalty on anything you would get convicted of. And I said, you're going to have a hell of a time convincing a jury or a judge if you get tried that you're not in a gang. Then gang specs don't apply if they're holding your rag up and it says gang shit on it. But you wear what you want. And guess what? They took them both off. Again, just comes from years of experience. That's all. It's not that I'm definitely not smarter or the smartest guy in the room. I just have a lot of experience. So, but what really blows my mind is these social media platforms, man. The podcasts, and I've known of one that is fairly popular. And in fact, in the biker lifestyle, it's very popular. I think. I mean, I don't know why. I no offense, but I can't stand it. Sensationalism, I can't stand. Um, the person that is presenting it isn't didn't spend much time in a past, put it that way. And I'm not saying any names. I'm not saying any podcast. They know, trust me, he knows who he is. In fact, I'm fairly certain. In fact, I'm really certain that he may have spent some time in the same patch I wore at the time when I was the top guy in the U.S. And wasn't there long. And then maybe he relocated or something, and maybe he did, or maybe he didn't. Maybe spend some time with another one. But I'm telling you, not long. And then you want to get on some platform and pretend like you know everything or know anything. And I'm not saying that there isn't wisdom, and I don't know his life like mine. I mean, I knew a lot of shit before I put the probate patch on because I spent a lot of time around that, the culture. I grew up in it. And so, yeah, I knew things. But when you have a platform that does nothing but just fucking share everybody's dirty fucking laundry, I don't even know how. Well, I ain't gonna say that, but I don't know how it's still in existence. The podcast, I mean, but yeah, it's just if MCs were anything, they were private, and really a lot of the first MCs didn't come about because there wasn't any such thing as a motorcycle club. A group of guys that rode together, all the way back to the first ones, and then Hollywood glamorized it very quickly in the '60s, or even I think with Brando, maybe early '60s, maybe '50s, I don't know. So it started becoming that cowboy, outlaw persona, and it just grew from there. And a lot of like everything in life, some things that happened were exaggerated in the press and media. We gave it, fed it, fed it, fed it. Um, but I can tell you that you know, like the old man's club and the clubhouse I have pictures of. It wasn't. It was a community of downtrodden. You know, they didn't get together to be an MC at first. I mean, they got together because they relied on each other. Because together you have more than by yourself. And somebody could bring home the dent cans from the IGA, and somebody who worked at a pizza place could bring home leftover pizzas or whatever. And together you had more. And then because of the Hollywood glamorization and the club starting together, some of those, like me, old man, they became a club, or joined a club. They started chapters or a state or whatever, or a city, and that's kind of where it came from. But nowadays, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's not what it was. I can say that. And when you want to sit there and talk about people's business, man, it blows my mind. I mean, because it's even I can see where it's successful or has a decent following from citizens. We call and that's a term. I had somebody get smart on one of my podcast. Oh, it's citizens. What do you think you work for? What, the government? Shut the fuck up. You don't even know what you're talking about, dude. Don't talk about the language we speak when you don't speak it, man. It's just what it is. I didn't invent it. It's just what it is. And when your life, it's there's and I can tell you, it goes back to the '60s because the old man said, we didn't have the wars, the club wars that a lot of people have later, was created some big divides. He said, we all got along, all of us. And it was us against them. Them, he goes, us being motorcycle clubs, them being citizens and law enforcement. He said, so we didn't want to conform to society. And that's where a lot of that free spirit came from, or the club spirit came from. So they called them citizens. That's how they segregated the difference between, anyone that isn't in a club and those who are. So, I mean, with that, we know, like I said, it comes the code, the unwritten code. I mean, look, back in the '60s and prior, they had women in 1% clubs. There's plenty of photographs proving that, include my old man's club, including some of the actually at least two of the very top and oldest clubs. I mean, it is what it is. Culture changes, time changes, things change, But when you got somebody who's never really been in any position and bases an entire brand or podcast or anything off of basically just reading the news and just regurgitating it and creating a bunch of fucking drama, I just don't have respect for it, man. I don't care if they get 1 million followers. Again, Sons of Anarchy was a very, very, very popular and valuable brand, and for a good reason. I didn't watch it. I lived it. But it's so funny. All these shows are like a cartoon, like a Bugs Bunny version of real life that's dramatized. But you know, I don't care if somebody watches it. I don't care. And most one percenters I know. I mean, people get so wrapped up in the dumbest shit, and oh, that guy's wearing a Sons of Anarchy t-shirt. So fucking what? I saw a guy wearing a Dukes of Hazzard shirt when I was like 10. I mean, he didn't think he was Bo or Luke. Maybe he did. Who gives a shit? It's a TV show. I think I might even had an Incredible Hulk shirt once. When I was a kid. Does that mean I was the Incredible Hulk, or I was stealing their brand? Real one percenters, real, and the ones I know from almost every major um, organization that you would know or recognize in the state or in the United States and beyond. They don't care. They're not. They're so mature. They have such a maturity level. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them, that that doesn't. I mean, they're so far above that. They don't give a shit. Somebody's wearing a fucking TV show shirt or a patch. Oh well, it's just this. He's wearing a patch. He's wearing a vest with it on. Who gives a fuck? You know what it is? It's a fucking television show. Who cares? Well, I earned my right. Who cares? He didn't say he's not wearing your patch. Fake patch that he can buy from China or wherever, or one of them platforms, or Alibaba, or whatever the hell it's called. I mean, so who cares? Yeah, if he was wearing your patch, then that to me is the same as wearing a military uniform when you didn't earn it, right? So it's stolen valor. Uh, but if the guy's wearing a fucking TV show, you have to be a insecure motherfucker to have to be worried about some fucking guy, some kid riding his bicycle or whatever the hell else who digs the life but can't live it. You know what? I congratulate those people and thank them for their support because they're just showing homage to a lifestyle that they just can't live for whatever reason. Be secure in yourself, man, and be an adult. Again, I know that's tough because I often say a lot of things you'll hear me say, I often said, but the biggest lie perpetrated on me as a child was that grown-ups were actually grown up. They're the same insecure bullies or children or that they were, or gossiping or tattletales as they were when they were 8. They're just now like 68 or 58, and it's the truth, man. I just never knew it. I thought grown-ups would have their shit together. Nope, not at all. But most of them anyway. But the level of maturity you'll see usually, and especially in the big clubs of the one percenters, they're not. Yeah, there's assholes, and you can pick them out of a crowd in a heartbeat. And you know what they are? They're insecure. They're the same insecure bullies that were at recess trying to, whatever, steal the tether ball from you. I don't know, the kickball, because they're insecure, and don't feed them. Bully only respects the bully. So, Mr. Black was at a. I've told the story before, but some people hadn't heard. They were in a bar, I think, in maybe Flint or I don't know, Pontiac up in Michigan, years and years. I mean, 100 bazillion years ago. But guy came in to rob the place with a shotgun, middle of the afternoon. Two other club brothers, him and another guy down to the right of the bar. 5 or 6 people in there, and the guy's swinging around yelling. Turns and sees them, and he's like, "Oh, excuse me, I don't mean to bother you guys. You just drink your beer." They were just drinking their beer, talking, and they didn't say anything. And he went about his business, and he's like, "Sorry to disturb you," and left because he said, "You go bust in a room and you think you're the biggest bully in the room, you better be the biggest bully in the room." And he wasn't that day. But hey, my bar, I don't give a shit what he does. As long as he didn't fuck with us, then he'll live. And that's the truth. So, again, and the bullies that even the bullies and narcissists whose respect I earned was because I earned it because I showed it. Unless I'm obviously disrespected, then I'll never re-respect you. But you got to be confident in who you are. You have to understand that it ain't about you, and there's too many leaders, and every single one of them that I've ever seen has a very hard fall from grace. And maybe they just can't help it, man. They've been a bully since they were, in 6th grade or something. They can't outthink you, they can't outtalk you, but they grew up bigger than you or faster, so they figured out they could outpunch you or punch everybody at recess in adult life. And it really truly gave those schoolyard bullies somewhere to excel later in life because you're not gonna get away with that shit. And at work or anywhere else, you're gonna have to join a motorcycle club or somewhere so you can actually still be a schoolyard bully. Uh, But even furthermore, what's sad is that grown men, you know, that join clubs in often cases, and I get it. I mean, I can see that you're in a bad neighborhood and you're fighting for your way, and you gather a group of your friends, or you join. It could be anything, street gang, could be MC, could be whatever, and that's a purpose for defense, right? But you have guys who join these organizations who have no spine, and literally, and they hide amongst the patches because they don't have any balls to handle anything themselves. And then they don't even have the balls to stand up against narcissists and thieves when they're point blank in their face saying, "I'm going to steal this, fuck you," and they don't even come together to stand up because there's not a spine amongst any of them, and that's just sad. That's sad to see. Really is sad to see. But you have that situation often in workplace. You have this asshole boss who's a prick, who's on a power trip, and that's always the guy that they promote, to the fucking supervisor or whatever. And I have often been in a place, even with companies I helped build from like 12 million to 50 million, and part of the team that did that, and they promote some guy who's like not even qualified, who gets a big head right away, and it's like, why? How can I be so? How can I and the leadership of this club or this company be so far off? I mean, I am not even on the same book that they're on, not to mention the same page, and I don't get it. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I don't get it. But I've also seen many times they paid a price for that in business and business volume and finances or in the club life, and they usually fall hard. I've seen many leaders fall hard because they're only powerful for so long. And then as your backers fall away, to whatever reason, then you get, less support and get to wherever. And I've seen the next band of stronger, alpha wolves or whatever come up and take out their own guys. I mean, and I'm not saying, with anything, permanent. I'm just saying take them out of position, however, whatever it takes, whether it's backstabbing. But I saw that even at an AMVETS before I even decided to join, because I could still, when I had the kids were younger, I could still go there, and uh, and they could go too because they had a canteen, had fish night and all that. But as usual, I joined before I probated, and literally after the first year, I'm the commander of the Suns. And I don't know why. And again, I do not aspire to these positions. I just see shit's broken, and I'm an operations guy. And if I can fix it, I want to fix it. Well, first volunteer, you're a sucker, because then they end up putting you in these positions, and I'm just volunteering all your time. But I like fixing things, and I saw it in that club. I mean, we tried to do a poker run. I came up with the very first, may have been starting to probate then. I'm not really sure. I may not have been the Sunshine Mayor. I think I was the last year. But I said, hey, man, I want to do poker around here because I know a lot of bikers, and our town has, the biker side of town. And I know a lot of people are riding. It's real popular. I said, we can make some money. I mean, it was a pushing a rope up a ladder to get the old men in there. That we're a veterans club. We're not a motorcycle club. I want to know you're wrong because you're a national organization, and mine, because I was a Suns commander, has a motorcycle club. I mean, they have the riders, so it could be Eagle Riders, it could be Ambet Riders, it could be whatever. So yes, they do because it's popular. Long story short, I got it passed. It's been probably, I don't even know, man. I'm gonna say almost 20 years ish. And that poker run is still going, and it was, and I imagine it still is. I haven't been in that AMVETS for a while as a member. We've been 4 to 8 years, and it's up north. But it maintained as the largest collection for donations of any event that AMVETS that year, or that post, I'm sorry, has annually. Period. Flat ass. Didn't even come close. But you're still fighting this, and in those groups. You guys are like clicking, and you got like 35 guys, but you can't put 35 guys in a room without there being clips and clicks and backstabbing and shit. It's like you're a charity organization. The hell, you're backstabbing each other like, I don't know, but I think it's just human nature, inherently. But when I see these platforms and these, well, I mean, the one I'm only talking about, though, I haven't seen all of them. I have respect. There's one I really do like called Four for the Road, and I know one of the original. I believe, producers of that. He's a friend. He was a high-ranking officer in another 1% club, and I have mad respect for him. And he's always been nice to me. And I've talked to him many times after he had some medical issues and stuff. But he had started that, and I watched it, and I learned from it. Although I learned how the format, the stuff they're talking about, is right on the money because I've lived it too, and you can just immediately tell if somebody knows what they're talking about or just blowing smoke. If you're in the life, because you're intimately, it's your life. It's not a hobby. It is your life. And there are other ones that I do know have the experience in the life on their. I know where they've been. I know where they come from, and I know that the positions they were in, they had to have. But I just see a tremendous amount of these podcasts just just talking about club business everywhere. And I'm like, when the hell did that become the norm? You don't talk about club business. You don't sensationalize shit. You don't discuss Fight Club or club business. First rule. You don't do it. It's part of the code. I know the ones who don't do platforms, which are the highest or biggest or most known clubs and some of the oldest that don't participate at all. That's the level of maturity I was talking about. You know, you don't do it. And I'm not saying they don't earn money. Maybe they do. I'm not saying they don't have more followers. Maybe they do. Um, that's my integrity and the respect I've earned in the life from those like me means more to me than that. And I am really astounded that these guys, I don't know a lot of them. I just know them from their platform. It blows my mind, man. I can't figure it out. I cannot figure out, and it's not just like just that platform. They got reach and they reach out and they're talking to other club members or club leaders from other clubs, all clubs I don't know. There are more clubs than you could possibly even think there are, and you know maybe the top 7 or 10, but you don't know them all. And there's just tons, and some that are just as dangerous or just as hard hitting as the ones that you would recognize. You just don't know it. Hence the one I came from. They were one that oftentimes, unfortunately, there's some time to time there's beefs with everybody, including the top ones that would most people would shit down their leg. And this particular cub never stood down. Used to in the old days. I'm not talking about now because I ain't going there because again I'll talk about clubs business. But I'm just saying the biggest clubs that you recognize from Texas and California, Chicago or Illinois, Florida, New York, northern whatever the hell that is up there, New England. You don't see podcast. One of them, if you do watch podcasts, was a former, very high-ranking member of a big club that's well known. It's none of my business. That's their business. But I just feel like I don't know. I have been shit on by clubs. I have been backstabbed by brothers, people I thought were my brothers. I have been attacked by people that called themselves my brothers, trying to do me harm. I've had clubs that were never my club brother defend me. Gather big to defend me against my own former friends or brothers. Isn't that crazy? Because real is real and snake is snake, and that's just the way it is. But I'm astounded at these podcasts. They're just slinging fucking gossip everywhere, talking about their clothes business. And they said that, and what the fuck did that become, man? It became some fucking gossip mill. I'm just blown away. And I don't even know a lot of them, but I do know some, or I know of them. And I'm like, I had a lot more higher expectations for what I've heard than what I'm seeing. You don't fucking sling shit. It's not a goddamn Sons of Anarchy, television, episode. It's real life, man. And I'm just blown away, totally blown away that these are the successful platforms in podcasts and whatever, because it is absolutely not within the life or the code. Um, I'm not saying what they're slinging or what they're saying is wrong or based not in fact. Because I really can't stand. I can't stay on and watch it. I can't sit there and watch these things involve other who shouldn't be talking in public, nonetheless, on a fucking podcast. But hey, man, to each their own. We all earn our own respect, and then fade away into, if you're lucky, you're infamous, if not famous. But like I said, in general, you will never see, and I have never seen the ones that are the biggest and the oldest and the hardest hitting clubs in the world um, pulling that kind of shit because it's not cool. I mean, hey, make some money. I may never have the following um, that they have. But I don't care. I mean, I didn't do this for a following. We did it because originally I I had stopped riding, like I had said earlier, and because it was just like there's so much shit going on when I left the club, and I had to get over that mental gap of literally 7 days a week, almost 365 days a year, dealing with that club. I mean, this was my life. I knew there was gonna be a huge gap there, and I figured I'd be walking in circles, which I was a lot at the beginning, trying to find something to do with myself. But you know, you just I don't know. So we said, well, I'll do a podcast, and I've talked to some of the big leaders, and I will have them once I'm set and established. The problem is right now I have never been able to hit the consistency that people want, and honestly, people have about 3 second attention span. So there'll be some that would follow, but it's best off if you set a time every day and you like a radio show, and you sit down and you do it. And of course, podcasts can be recorded off a live event. They call them lives now on a lot of these stations. So you can do a live, and that way you can get interaction, which is really cool. Isn't that weird? How television went from like live studio audience or even live TV to pre-programmed, pre-recorded, and laugh track shit, and then went to the internet, and now it's almost come back full circle where you're actually doing lives. So you can get like violated right then, right there when whenever the AI police decide that they don't like what you said, which has happened to me about every time, at least on TikTok because they're soft as puppy shit. But you know, I want to get established there, but and again, the motive was to maybe I'll go back and write the article. I stopped writing because a lot of people had asked, and then maybe we'll spin a podcast off from it so that we could, because it only came out once a month, the magazine. So set the subject and then do like a 4-part episode on that subject with different guests. Once a week for the month, and do the next one. When I found out that the editor was pulling the plug on that syndication up there, and doing his own thing. When we talked a little bit, he was my friend, he still is. I just decided that we couldn't come to a term that I agreed or we could agree. I'd rather stay friends, and often you don't want to mix business and friendship anyway. So I just said, I'll start my own brand down here, and that's what I did. I mean, he's got a good 15 years on me. I'm sure he's making some bank. I could use some scratch over here, but it's holding its own. It's going to take a while. It takes that long. It takes a long time, a lot of work to build anything from nothing. And you'll work harder for yourself than anybody else. But since I didn't have that audience anymore that I had once had, because I had stopped writing for about a year or so, then I said, well, I got to start over. So I had to build a whole brand and build an audience, and then find people that are interested in this. And I need to really, and I do have a unique perspective. I have co-hosts or the ability to bring in guys with 40 plus years of experience, and some are still active in major roles and clubs. And I've seen a little bit of that on some of these other platforms. But what I see with it is they're talking about shit they shouldn't be talking about. Talking about other clubs and their other clubs' business and what they did, and they put this on. You, you'll never hear that here. We'll talk about club stuff because that's what interests the public. Um, and I'm down with that. But I'm not going to just sit here and sling gossip. I mean, if it doesn't make you cringe when some of these hosts start talking about, well, they did this and they did that. As soon as they say that, man, if you're down with it, then you're not down with the real life because the real life doesn't support that. The real life keeps shit to our chest and keep our secrets, and even keep our enemies' secrets our secrets because, again, they may not be our enemy. next year. And that's another reason, like I started to say earlier, why we don't take sides or didn't take sides. And some people aren't down with that, and I understand. I do. They're like, if you go to if you're going to dine with my enemy, then I'm not going to dine with you. And I get it. I get that. They want loyalty. You have my loyalty. But if I happen to be at their party, you start throwing rocks at us, and you don't know I'm there, and you're throwing rocks, and we're back there, then guess what? Well, I'm throwing rocks back right beside them because I'm on this side of the fence that day. So I happen to be there. But if I'm at your place next week and we're okay, and somebody comes in and throw rocks, whoever it is, we're throwing rocks back, because I'm always on my side. I don't disparage secrets. I don't tell anybody's business, and it takes years to earn that kind of reputation and trust. It really does. Um, but once you have it, it's golden. Club people, again, can do what they want. I get calls for my opinion on things, and you know, it's done right. You don't talk about your club business to citizens or people who are in your club, but you can talk about situations that may be similar that maybe happened on the Sons of Anarchy episode when you really, really, really need somebody's advice or opinion. Um, so I have no problem being that guy because they know for a fact, proven time and time and time again, that their secrets are safe with me or whatever they want to do. I don't talk to nobody. I don't share anything. Um, that's different than blabbing. Well, they did that, and you just literally blabbing other people's business all over the freaking internet, or you've never been in the life, and you're the loudest mouth on the block, about well they did this and they did that. Who the fuck are you to be talking about anybody's shit, man? I mean, hey, look, I ain't here. I'm just here to motivate people and push buttons. That's what I do. So, I don't know, but I am gonna try to get established. I've had a run. Don't ever think it can't get worse, even when you're like getting your ass kicked by life, because it can. So we have some things going on here. I have Mrs. Tabasco took ill, and hell, she's younger than me, like 7 years. I was like, damn, woman, about time to trade you in. But out of nowhere, that just has just upheaved everything around here. And I don't want to lose the ground we've gained because I enjoy doing this. My whole plan behind this whole thing was if I could just make some Walmart greeter money so I could pay my bills, if I could live this piece, since I don't feel I want to serve what clubs have become today, and we'll cover a lot more of that, then I'll be the happiest biker in the world. I mean, seriously, I can just pay my bills, and we live well under our means. But this last 3 years has kicked our ass. I mean, it has kicked our ass. I, uh, I ain't blaming nobody because I don't trust either side of the government. I think they're all against us, and you'll hear me blab about that and get violated and videos taken down. But it is what the proof's right there. It's fact. I mean, ain't no way, no matter what. But then she's now just taken ill. So we have a lot of tremendous um, things to do. Um, and so I just get on when I can. I really do, like I said, want to set a platform. Um, in my mind, I had it set that we could just write an article and then do 4 segments and film them like all in one day, but not realizing how live has become so popular where people can call in or you have interaction with the listeners, and so that doesn't work in that format. It could, but it wouldn't be. I know a lot of people listen to the podcast and they're either verbal instead of this video format, or they're listening to it every day at the same time on their way to work or whatever. And I say a lot of podcasts, they say like it used to be like 30 minutes is all you should do because people are traveling place to place. Very rarely, few I ever see are that short. They're usually hour, 2 hours, whatever. And I don't know, like when Howard Stern went to the internet, I mean, I don't know. I think back then I didn't have like Sirius or whatever the hell the radio stuff was. So I don't know how like, long they're on, but I know a lot of morning shows are on like 3, 4, 5 hours. I'm not saying I have to be here in the morning. I'm just saying once we figure out what the hell we're doing and I can actually keep a schedule, I mean, then the plan was to, you know, be there regularly like a job every day and talk about the events of what the hell ever and try not to bore the hell out of everybody, but at least be consistent so people know, that they could tune in and listen. Of course, they're always on the channels, which are on YouTube. I think it's at The Sophisticated Biker, and also Spotify, which is I think the MC Clubhouse, or I don't know, hell, I think it's Garage Therapy. And I called it Garage Therapy originally because one of our best friends, we used to have Garage Therapy. He had a Harley shop behind his house, and we hung out there. And Brother Goon, who I've mentioned many times, and he's in some of the songs. He contributed on the painting stuff. He also has a shop behind his place, and so we always call it. We work out there all night. We call it garage therapy. So when a brother Tread died in a motorcycle accident with his wife a couple 3 years ago, 2 years ago, on Memorial Day, then whenever I did get this together, start launching the podcast part, I just called it garage therapy. So that's where it came from. I don't know that's the best word or use because I'm sure that it confuses some people as they're passing through that, they're working on cars or something. I don't know. And that's why I kind of renamed this one the Motorcycle Clubhouse. It's more to the point. But when I individually do my vlogs and my worthless opinion to you all, I'm still, going to call it price therapy. So, all right, I think I have talked plenty. I have to a shit ton of stuff to do. We're going to sell the house, and that's like scary because you know how that is. I mean, I have to actually like change that light bulb that's been out for 3 years. I mean, good lord, that and 27 other things that had to be done to put lipstick on it and get the most, and then move and figure out whatever. But you know what? Life comes at you fast. Enjoy it. Keep your throttle twisted and your ass on the seat. So I will. I'll get back to you as soon as I can with another podcast. And until then, you know what to do. You got to keep it real.